Hello and welcome to a very special video, everybody. And today we're not going to have a lot of editing or much of anything going on, so please forgive me for that. But I wanted to talk about the advanced statistics for the new edition of Heresy. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of a different turn. I tend to be very critical, so hey, if you want somebody who's just going to be honest with you, hey, I'm your guy for you. So here's my thoughts on it. Now, they've recently done another article talking about the advanced statistics, and good or bad, I do have a number of reservations on adding more mechanics, even just stats, to a system when I think for the most part, and I'm going to just say this, I believe that the vast majority of people who are playing Horus Heresy wanted a refinement to the second edition rules to fix a number of problems that were there, to even things out. They weren't really looking for a whole bunch of new things being added, and I really honestly feel like it's to make it more distinct from normal 40k, and on top of it to go after what I believe Games Workshop sees Warlord Games, especially Bolt Action, as a very big and potential upcoming rival. Now, when it comes to these stats, we're going to go over them very, very briefly, and I'm going to give my thoughts a little bit more in depth. We have CL, which is cool, WP, which is willpower, not weapon power, and intelligence, or IN. Now, this is in the same line now that leadership, or LD, has been moved into. And here's the thing. Cool is about your units or individual characters' ability to not freak out under fire, to obey orders, to do what they're directed. I find this a completely superfluous thing to add into Horus Heresy. I like Necromunda, but I think it's a pointless thing to convert over to Heresy. We have leadership. We didn't need this stat in particular was one that just didn't need to be coming over. I feel that it's going to add a bunch of extra things to justify its existence, and is only going to complicate the game. And again, it's going to move us further away from the refinement of the rules people have been asking for. Willpower, I'm a little bit more than all of them, than all three of the ones that they've added, more predisposed to kind of accepting. A lot of people have pointed out that psionics or spellcasting, or however you want to look at it, has always had this kind of issue where it's either treated as a weapon, or it's its own phase, or it's this or that, and it's always kind of struggled in this kind of nebulous situation. And I think that it is a nice stat to have for both resisting and using psychic abilities. So I'm actually predisposed to thinking that if there was any one of these that needed to be added, willpower to the basic stat line was actually probably the best one. Because let's be honest, we have over the years struggled with the psionics / spellcasting issue, and this would be a good fix. Intelligence deals with the use of technologies such as augurs and things like that, and it feels more like a gimme towards tech marines and textile characters, and the Mechanicus more than it is something that had a massive just need within the game. I think it's just another stat like cool that's just adding things that don't need to be added. So of them, I would have kept willpower, and leadership could have covered everything that cool does, and it just doesn't need to exist, honestly. But here's my thing. A average game of Heresy has more units, if we treat units as characters, than the average game of Necromunda does. So the average game of Necromunda has about 8 characters, give or take. There's different sizes, and you can play a little bit different, but on average, it's about 8 characters in a gang, up to 10. Now, some factions play differently and have different elements to them, but you get what I mean. And on average, I think I can somewhat safely say, at least in my experiences, there's about 10 units on average in a Heresy game. Now, I could be wrong, but when you start literally looking at some of the more larger armies, or more of what you regularly see on a tabletop, you're getting into a district where you almost have double what a Necromunda game would have. Now, why am I saying that? Well, because they're using Necromunda in a large extent to add elements into the game for the idea of making it more simulative in a way. And I'm bringing it up for a reason. I believe that it can be a bigger issue, especially if you're treating individual units as a character, just to get as close as I can in comparison. It's going to potentially bog the game down, make it take longer, have more that you have to fuss around with and have to consider, and it's going to be more of a fap to already get long-winded games done. And if they didn't get rid of things like, the reactions, just to use this for example, this is going to get even more of a fap in regards to getting things done, having a game that ends in a decent amount of time. We've all faced that at one point in a time or another. My concern is that we're going to be adding a bunch of extra rules, which are going to have more steps to them and more things to have to consider and go through, which is going to increase the length of the game when it was already, in my opinion, fairly long for most people. On top of that, I don't feel like it's going to add more to the game. Now, we're already getting conditions like you have in bolt action, like pinned and so on and so on. I think that's a decent add to the game. I just don't think that on top of having the extra stats is going to necessarily be a good thing. We're adding a bunch more stuff in, but we don't know what's been removed. And again, I'm going to come down to this really basic thing. The community has not been asking for more to be added to the game in terms of rules. They've been asking for the rules to be refined, to be cleared up, to be more consistent, and to stay reasonably within the confines it had been. For a lot of people, even with all of the flaws with, second edition of Horus Heresy, it hit a sweet spot for a lot of people and was what they wanted. And my concern is that Games Workshop is effectively not paying any attention to those concerns and wants, and is in effect, how do I put it in the best way, responding to a perceived potential business rival and a desire from a business standpoint to make Horus Heresy even less like older editions of 40K, for fear that it might act as a bridge for people to go and play with older collections and models and so on and so on. So, effectively, I don't believe that we are going to see a cleaned up edition that's been refined and set upon the world. We're going to see something I think is going to get more bloated, more complicated, have more steps to it. And while there might be some interesting adds in it, I do not think that this is what most people want. I think this is going to cause a lot of people to just kind of give up or even go back further. I've already seen enough people who go like, okay, screw it, I'm just going to go play older editions at this point. So I have those concerns for the longevity of something like this. And I'm a guy that likes Saturnine armor. I've always enjoyed the derpiness of it. I like Mark II. I've been begging for Mark II to be around. I just wish it didn't have the same 5 poses as the last 2 troops releases. And I'm looking forward to the Mark II Assault Marines, which makes me sad inside in a way. But do you agree with me? Do you think this is going to bloat out the game and cause it to have more steps and is not necessarily what the community wants? Or do you think this is exactly what Heresy needed? I'd love to hear about it because, I just like to talk to people. So, have a fantastic day and bye-bye.